Hey, everybody. It's Damone Seraphin here. I am the host of Black Broadway Men, where we celebrate, lift, laud, and love on our brothers who have made significant contributions in this industry. And today, we are doing that with someone who I hold very dear. So excited for this conversation and to have our community meet, get to know, and love on none other than the one and the only Michael McElroy.
What's up? How you doing?
Hey, I'm so good, and I'm so excited to have this conversation. You have made such significant contributions, Michael, to this industry in more ways than 10. And so it is a deep honor and pleasure to love on you, to lift you, to laud you, to celebrate you for who you are and all that you have done and continue to do across this industry. And man, are you doing it across the industry for sure. And so I figure the best way to jump into this is to ask this question and to allow you to answer it in your own way. Who is Michael McElroy?
Oh, Lord. Wow, you start with some deep questions. I am my mother's child. I am a part of a legacy of artists and folks who live their lives in service. I am a preacher's kid 2 times over. I'm an artist. I'm a teacher. Most importantly, though, I am a human being who is attempting to every day try to be the best of who I can be in that day and continue to evolve and to be open to the twists and turns of my journey and gain the skills to be able to navigate the times of joy and the times of challenge. So, I don't know, that's who I am. I love to write. I love to create. I love to cook. I value friendships. You know, I love musical theater. I'm all those things.
Yeah, I love that question because, of course, we see you uh, in so many ways, and I think we have an idea
Right.
of who people are. But I love the opportunity for people to tell us who they are beyond accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
Man, your accomplishments are many. I'm fortunate to know you because we got to work. I got to work with you, under you, to learn from you uh, through our connection through Broadway Inspirational Voices. And I feel like everyone, we say BIV and we go Michael McElroy and all of the work, of course, that is done through BIV. But I'm more interested beyond the accomplishments, uh, the thing that kind of is the motor from Michael McElroy. And I love, we share this thing in common too. We're both preachers' kids. And so I guess I want to go back. We can talk about Miss Saigon and we can talk about Rent and we can talk about Violet and Big River. But can we go back to that kid in Ohio? When did Michael McElroy discover he had a gift? Let's start with discovering the gift.
That's an interesting question because I grew up in a family of talented musicians. So it wasn't about, for me, feeling like I had something special. It was I was surrounded by incredible artists. My mom was a child prodigy piano player. She's 84 and still plays church services, 2 services every Sunday. So I grew up, my grandmother played the piano, my mom, my sister, my brother, my uncle. We were musicians for the church. So I grew up around many, many examples of excellence, many examples of service. And so I didn't feel like what I had was special. I just felt like this is the family and this is what we do. And part of it was also, and you're going to do it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
so it's never that I felt special. I just felt convicted is not the right word, but meaning that you had a gift or you had something. Um, we're amongst a family of people who've been given gifts, and this is how you serve. And whether that was playing or singing in church or singing at the many events that my grandmother was involved in politics, uh, that's what you were supposed to do because that's what my mother did, and that's what
Hmm.
I did.
Hmm.
So, in that way, I just felt like I was surrounded by this abundance of artistry and excellence, and it was a great example for me.
Sure. But there is a moment, isn't there, when
Mm,
you go, whoa, uh, this gift now has
mm,
singular assignment
mm,
beyond what our parents, beyond what our parents have done, beyond uh, what people presume this gift is supposed to do. What
mm,
was the moment where you said, "Oh, there's something maybe bigger isn't the word, but there's something very specific to the call
mm,
on your life and gift."
mm. Wow. I'm trying to think of one particular moment, and it's like my childhood and my formative years were, like I said, spent in church,
Yeah.
spent at these political rallies and banquets and luncheons and picnics and um but I had this wonderful combination of my experiences growing up in church, but I also was raised in the suburbs where I had
Mhm.
all this access to incredible arts education. So
Mhm. Mhm.
fantastic music program in elementary school, then wonderful choral programs in junior high school and high school, theater program in high school that was really singular. Uh,
Mhm.
and so all of those, this kind of dichotomy of like downtown Cleveland and suburbs Shaker, both kind of gave me these perspectives
Mhm.
but both were filled with so many life lessons and joy and challenge and artistry.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I ever felt like, oh, this is the moment.
Sure.
It was just, there were always these moments that let me know that what I was doing was what I was supposed to be doing.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't until I was about to go to college when I had to look at what I wanted to do that I then went, okay, what am I doing? Which way am
Uh-huh.
I going? Am I going
Uh-huh.
the singing vocal road or am I going the theater road? And it just so happened that at that time in my high school, recruiters were allowed to come from universities all over the country, and you would get a pass and get out of class to be able to go and hear these recruiters talk about, their schools, their universities. And
Mhm.
I went to, just by chance, to the one that was the recruiter for Carnegie Mellon, and that's when I found out that there was a musical theater program that actually could combine both things. And that's
Mhm.
when my mom was like, okay, well, let's go. Well, it's only 2 hours
Wow.
away. We'll go for the visitation day. And I went, and as soon as I walked on the campus, I went, this is where I want to be. Then I had to audition.
Uh-huh.
And when I auditioned in New York, and they offered me a position, they offered me acceptance on the spot. And that was a really special moment. But even then, you grew up in church, there's a certain humility that you bring to everything. So
Mhm.
I never looked at these really wonderful singular moments in ways that made me think anything bigger of myself. And I don't mean in a negative way. It was because, when you grow up in church, it's always about that humility and
Yeah.
don't get a big head. And this is,
Mhm.
you're in service. And so I don't look at any of those moments. I mean, I look back and go, wow, that's pretty amazing. What I got to do, what I was exposed to in my family as well as at school. But I don't look at a singular moment because we were always told to just keep your head down and keep doing what you're doing. Does
Mhm.
that make sense?
Yeah, of course, of course, of course. So you leave high school,
Yes.
and you're all involved in music in high school for sure.
Hmm.
And then you get to Carnegie Mellon, and there's this focus.
Uh-huh.
There's a focus of musical theater now.
Right.
You're not just standing singularly as a vocalist.
Hmm.
You have merged mu- music and theater together.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
Tell us about those influences. Who were the influences in that time for you?
Well, it's interesting because as I said, I had a really extraordinary theater program in high school,
Mm-hmm.
doing all kinds of stuff, musicals, plays, poems. We were creating shows. We were doing workshops with dance theater companies from international theater companies. And we were doing all these kind of things in high school. So
Say your high school's name. Who's that? What's that?
Shaker Heights High School in Shaker
Go
Heights.
ahead, Shaker Heights High School.
Yes. And so the standards of excellence were ingrained in us. Um, literally we would work like physical like workouts for 3 hours on Wednesdays after school because my theater director believed in having being physically strong,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally strong. Um, and so going into Carnegie Mellon, already knew what hard work was. I knew what standards of excellence were. They were shifting in a new environment. What I didn't know, which became an issue, was who I was. And when you are a church kid and you move away from home
Mm-hmm.
for the first time, those college years are really about figuring out who you
Who
are.
you are, yes.
But at Carnegie Mellon at that time, the program, like all other conservatory programs at that time, were very deeply instilled in a kind of telling you who you needed to be. And anything outside of that was not going to be to your success in the
Mm-hmm.
program.
Mm-hmm.
So that would manifest itself at that time in what they called fat letters, where they would give male and female identifying students in the program, if you don't lose 15 pounds by the end of the semester, you're cut.
Yep.
If you did not um, if you were not their idea of what masculinity was, then you would be cut, right?
Yeah.
And so here I am trying to figure out who I am outside of this very sheltered experience of suburbs in Cleveland, church, high school, all of a sudden on my own. And immediately I'm being told, you cannot bring this in the room. You have to be this, 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 and this. And so I struggled in my first year because I didn't know how to navigate that. And then what ended up happening was by the end of the semester, they cut me. They were like, you can't come back. And that was in May. And I came home and I didn't tell my mom. And then for the whole summer, it just kept looming that at some point I'm going to have to tell my mother that I can't go back to school. And finally, I said something to her. I think it was August, the beginning of August.
Wow.
And she totally
Close.
surprised me. She was like, well, what happened? And I tried to kind of explain around. And she was like, well, was this fair? And I was like, no. And she said, okay, well, then we'll just get a lawyer and we'll deal with that. We'll deal with it that way. Now, we're talking at a time before social media. So it wasn't like what they were doing, which all conservatory training programs were doing at that
For
time,
sure.
were widely known outside of that small space.
Mm-hmm.
But I called because I was a work study student. I called the office to talk to one of the people that worked in the office because that's where I had been a work study student. And I said, my mom's going to get a lawyer. Um, and the next day they called me and said, you can come back, but you have to repeat your first year. And
Ah,
at that point, I was like, fine. I was like, because then I had something to prove to myself.
yes.
What I realized in that moment was I may or may not ever get the approval from them.
Mm-hmm.
I have to prove to myself that I can do it. So from
Say
that,
that one more time, Michael, because somebody needs to hear that.
you know, I realized in that moment that I may never get that approval from my professors,
Yeah.
but I needed to be able to approve, celebrate, believe in myself and my work.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that point on, it became about proving to myself that I could do it.
Yeah.
And I did. Those 4 years, additional 4 years. And we're talking about when I started at school. college was $11,000 a year. When I
Mhm.
graduated, it was $14,000 a year. And I was on almost a full scholarship. I had one loan, and my mom had a certain amount to pay, but I mean, compared to today, it was nothing. Uh,
Yeah.
and I made it through. And not only did I make it through, I graduated with honors and then was the first person out of my class to get a job before I graduated. And I was New York Shakespeare Festival, because they brought our class to New York to do it's like a consortium of training programs. They bring their seniors and you do these auditions for casting directors, agents, professionals.
Mhm.
And out of that, I got an audition for New York Shakespeare Festival. And so I did my presentation, then went down to the public, did my Shakespeare piece, came back. They asked me to come back, came back again, and then went back to school. And they called and said I was casting the ensemble of Richard III, starring Denzel Washington. And
Wow.
so that was going to be my first thing right out of school. And then I continued to work with periods of time in there where I was not working. But in those pockets of time, I was always doing something else, um, which eventually became BIV.
Hmm.
So I never felt like it was a time where I was culturally or artistically starving. I was always doing something to feed myself.
Yeah. Wow. So you had this discovery coming through this situation with Carnegie,
Hmm.
um, where you had to show yourself, you had to prove
Hmm.
to yourself who who you are,
Hmm.
what you bring to the table,
Hmm.
that your gifts are enough.
Hmm.
Um, was that part of the continuing shaping? Because Michael, here's the thing: you are you are a force.
Hmm.
You are a force in every sense of the word.
Hmm.
And so I guess the question is, when did that come into a sharper focus for you? What is the
Hmm.
thing that they say the young Black boys who are coming into these PWIs, where we're trying
Hmm.
to figure out how we fit, if we fit, that this young Black boy from Ohio, from the church, from the Black church,
Hmm.
coming into this thing that we're kind of, we look at it at, there's a lens that we see this from.
Hmm.
We don't see ourselves right out front right away.
Hmm.
We're trying to fit into a mold.
Hmm.
What was awakened? I guess that's the question. What was the thing that you said, this is who I am?
Hmm. Well,
Like it, love it, leave it alone.
yeah, you go to, there's so many things swimming around in my mind to answer that. There's a couple things. One is today is very different of a time than when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
When I was growing up, there was a stronger sense of community in my neighborhood. So on my block alone, there were like 20 kids that were between my age and my brother's age, who was 4 years older. So we socialized outside. The community raised us. We knew if we did something here, we were gonna get in trouble, and then they were gonna call. So
Mm-hmm.
there was a sense of Black excellence around us, and we understood the way my mom and all the Black mothers and fathers in my neighborhood spoke to their children was, when you walk out of this house,
Mm-hmm.
you not only represent this family, but you represent Black people every time you step into any space. And so there was a sense of pride. There was a sense of connection to something greater than yourself. There was a sense of standing on the shoulders of what that I feel today have lost.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or we're not as strongly connected community-wise to that language anymore.
Yeah.
And so I had a sense of who I was. And we were also raised to understand you're going to have to work 10 times harder just to be considered half as good, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were
Mm-hmm.
raised to work harder, understanding that this world of whiteness was not always going to be fair,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but that we could get through it. We would work hard and we would do what we needed to do. And that, coupled with my faith and my belief that my road, I was put on this earth to do something, like everyone was put on this earth to do something singularly that only I could do in the way that I could do it. And everyone has that. And that what I learned in this experience in college was that didn't mean it was going to be easy,
Yeah.
right? And that some of the lessons that really resonate or stick with us are the ones that are sometimes the most challenging, right? What I had to do eventually was dismantle my work ethic, belief in myself. I had to disengage it from a place of harm, right?
Mhm.
It was because this harmful thing had happened to me that I pulled myself up and worked harder.
Yeah.
But then it became a thing. Every show I ever got, I was like, oh, they're going to fire you. You're not good enough. And then I go, okay, well, fine. I'm just going to work harder. So it
Mhm.
became this harmful thing became the trigger for my work.
Say that again because that happens for us.
Yeah,
Say that
where,
again.
where my conviction and my ability to work hard was connected to a harmful situation,
Mhm.
which, if you want to look at I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, that we carry within us this major trauma that happened to our ancestors, and there's a
Mhm.
part of us that recognizes overcoming,
Yep.
but always in relation to a traumatic event.
Mhm.
When can we just go and come forth without it being something we have to fight against,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that was my experience was I worked hard because in the back of my head I was like, well, if they're not going to fire me because I didn't work hard enough.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it wasn't until probably like 2004 that I finally said, Michael, this doesn't serve you. Let
Mhm.
that go. I
Mhm.
was able to finally let it go.
Mhm.
But that was a journey.
Yeah.
That was a journey, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible. And I think so many of our brothers in this community need to hear that.
Yeah.
Need to hear that it is possible to
Yes.
come through
Hmm.
those moments
Hmm.
and to be the better for it.
Yes.
And then go ahead. Come on. No, keep going.
No. I just realized what you were going to ask me was going into these spaces that subtly or quite overtly ask you, as a
Mm-hmm.
young Black man in this space, to de-blacken yourself
Mm-hmm.
so that you make others feel safe in your presence.
Mm-hmm.
Young Black men and women, artists,
Yes.
have to seek out spaces or communities and never lose that thing that we carry, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to know how to navigate all kinds of spaces.
Mm-hmm.
But navigating a space that does not center you does not mean that you have to give up yourself, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so I see a lot of or I've seen programs where they bring in these young African American men and then want to strip everything away from them to make them safe and palatable for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've
Mm-hmm.
seen some young African American men fall prey to that. And then I've seen some who held firm. But
Yeah.
the ones that held firm were the ones that came from predominantly African American communities where it was already instilled in them, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I don't know what advice to give. I just know that if you haven't been brought up in that space, you have to seek it out, whether that's reading, whether that's, connecting with other in organizations or whatever.
Yeah.
Find that thing because
Yeah.
when you step out into the world, that's how they're going to see you, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's still, no matter how they see you, is a glorious thing. You just have to know that we have to be able to navigate every space we walk into and still hold on to who we are,
Yeah.
except who we are.
Yeah. It's wild, Michael, to me because this is our second season of this show. And this seems to be the continuing
Recurring thing.
thread. I went through it at CCM.
Mm,
Alton went through it at CCM.
yeah.
Like, so we're inextricably linked, but we come from these communities that deeply embedded us
Mhm.
a strong sense of belonging,
Mhm.
a faith that says, and this is what I thought about even when you meant it for evil.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
But it was flipped around for my good. It was
Mhm.
flipped. I used that thing and I stepped on it.
Mhm. Mhm. It
Yeah.
was a stepping stool. I mean, if you think about it, like in my class, there were two African American women Um,
Mhm.
the class below me, Billy Porter was in,
Yeah,
and Natalie Belcon, who just got nominated for Buena Vista Club.
yeah,
You know, we came out, Keena and Vanita both were on Broadway and TV shows, the whole thing. I mean, because we latched on to each other,
yeah, yeah.
right? But we all, once again, still came from communities that had strong African American values and sense of community. And my question then today becomes when we step away from that in order to achieve, in order to blah, 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 what have we lost?
Mhm.
What are we losing that our young Black artists need to have?
I think that's why BIV is so important.
Hmm.
I think it offered a community. And listen, it's interfaith, it's multicultural,
Hmm.
sure, but at the foundation of it
Hmm.
was the spirit of you,
Hmm.
who brings that community. So
Hmm.
all Maya Angelou says whenever she steps into a pulpit, I have to make room because all of my folks are up here with me,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so we feel the presence of your community
Hmm.
as you've created now this what BIV became.
Hmm.
Uh, I Michael, every time I look at you, I feel the presence of. So I get nervous sometimes when I'm looking. Not nervous, but no, I feel called higher.
Hmm.
And I feel when I look at you, I feel when I drop the ball too. I just you ain't even gotta say nothing. I'm just like,
Hmm.
yep, yep, we gotta rise higher. Yep,
Hmm.
gotta do better. Yes, we have to think fuller.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's what I got. That's what I get out of the affiliation of BIV. That's what
Hmm.
you created. And so I guess that it then takes us beautifully into this next section. You come out of university, you're
Hmm.
now functioning in the community. You've had your Broadway debut.
Hmm.
Yes, that's great. But there was a thing, Michael, that you were responding to.
Hmm.
Can you talk to us about that thing you were responding to that allowed you to create this community?
Um, like I said, growing up in the time that I did, there were so many wonderful things. There was arts education was considered vital, right?
Mhm.
But also, our worlds were small. There was no internet. There was no social media. We had three TV stations: ABC, NBC, and CBS. And you might have
Yes.
channel 62 and channel 43 on you know what I mean? But that was
Yep.
it,
Yep.
right? So our lives were really in that community, right? I didn't know what was happening in another state. I didn't, let alone what was happening on another
Mm-hmm.
country, unless somebody read it from a newspaper or I read it or went and looked on my microfiche or whatever. But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have, today the world is so big, right? So I was allowed to be a young person and I was allowed to hold on to my innocence for much longer. Even moving from Shaker to Pittsburgh, my world was just Pittsburgh and that area around Carnegie Mellon.
Mm-hmm.
When I moved to New York, which is the place I always knew I wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
I ran smack dab into the middle of the AIDS crisis.
Yeah.
And watching, you know, people that you see on stage one day and 2 months later they're gone or they're 90 pounds and can barely it was inconceivable. There was no way to for our brains to wrap around it. So what do we do as community? As we get in there and we raise up our sleeves. And
Mm-hmm.
what happened? Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS came together, created Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS. We fundraised, we did cabarets. We made sure that our community members, whether they were in front of the stage or behind the stage, were getting the things they needed to have some quality of life. Because at that time, we're talking really before any, even AZT, it was 99% chance that you were not going to you weren't going to live through it, right? So how we could support the quality of life of our fellow community members, right? And that was what we did. And so in 1992, I did a cabaret. In 1993, I did a cabaret. But in 1994, I was like, I want to do something with gospel music because as much as we were doing, there was still a gaping hole in our spirits, in our
Mhm.
collective spirit.
Yeah, yeah.
And I knew even separating religious dogma and belief or where gospel music was birthed, you know, just the music alone carries a certain power.
Yeah,
Not even a certain, a definite power.
yeah.
You only got so many notes on the piano and so many vowels and words, but there's something about the power of gospel music
Hmm.
that touches people, that reaches inside people in a different way because
Yeah,
it comes from the blood,
yeah,
right? It comes from a people who were pulled from their homes and brought to a foreign land and then could not speak their own languages. So they created a community language in this music.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. And so it comes from that legacy, from that ancestry up to us. And so there's a power there. And so I wanted to do something with gospel music that would not exclude anybody based on who they were or what they were or all that, but invited everybody into community.
Yeah.
And I invited 11 friends of all different backgrounds, beliefs, faiths, identities. Let's come together and let's sing this music. And it was a benefit for Broadway Cares. We were in a church up on the Upper West Side, sold out.
Hmm.
And the feeling from the very first song was something that I realized this was something that we needed. And there were so many people who were able to find themselves in this space, that were able to feel welcomed in this space, who were able to connect to the thing that is greater than themselves again, because the spaces where they grew up told them because of who they were not allowed. All these things. And so it became a way of refilling those holes that this epidemic was leaving in our spirits, right? And I didn't think of it as that. I was just trying to, do my part. I wasn't
Hmm.
thinking 30 years down the line what BIV was going to be. That wasn't on my mind. What was on my mind was, and my heart was, this music has gotten me through. This
Yeah,
music has gotten me over. This music has been there and allowed me to weep and has allowed me to be strong and has given me strength and healed me. I have to share that with my community.
yeah, yeah,
And so 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99 were all benefits for Broadway Cares every
yeah.
year. And every year the choir got bigger. And then we started getting these opportunities to do all these wonderful things, but that was never the intention. And then we
Hmm.
became a not-for-profit, and then made the decision that we were going to create outreach programs to go out into communities, to bring music programs to children, to youth at risk in neighborhoods that didn't have music programs in schools. That became the way of giving back, of being in service. So we were in service to our community through the concerts that we did, healing our community, but we were also in service to the greater community by creating these programs and using music as a way to empower and to heal, to celebrate uh, uh, what it means to be human and to connect with other people.
Yeah. And how powerfully it does
Hmm.
all those things, Michael.
Yeah.
And to be a part of that, to witness it, it is the most deeply profound experience going to Ronald McDonald House and doing the
Hmm. A Covenant House. It sounds like,
covenant.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It is the most the first sleep outs. I
Mm.
mean, I'm part of a fraternity, but I always tell people about BIV. It is truly that that sense of fraternity
Mhm.
where it is friendship is good for the soul. We have our own fraternal watchword that allows us to show up in the community as artists with and I don't. It's more than just singing.
Yes.
It's singing as service. It
Hmm.
is it
Yep.
is a it is a release of your gift, not for yourself, but to uplift
Hmm.
another. I can't tell you how deeply profound
Yeah.
uh, that is, Michael.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And a lot of us, well, the reality is we are using the gifts that we have, that we've trained and cultivated for our living, right? To make
yeah,
a, and so to be able to come together with other community members that you're not auditioning against, or,
yep,
but to use your gifts to give to the community, it ends up coming back and feeding us as well.
exponentially.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's a gift in itself to go, I'm singing, not because I want to be singing the solo, not because I'm trying to get a job. I am just
Mhm.
part of a community of voices
Yeah.
that are giving something.
Here's my offering.
Yep.
Yeah. It's really powerful, Michael. It's really powerful. Uh, what I love about your journey, though, this kid who grew up in the church in the suburbs of uh, coming through that drama at Carnegie and then coming out on top. And you are certainly a name and face for that institution, for that program. You make your splash on Broadway, and you do that in a big way. Big River, I still talk about Big River
Mm,
to this day, how incredible that production was, but how absolutely moving your portrayal of Jim
mm,
was and the humanity that you brought to him.
mm,
I played that role a few times, and
mm,
you are the you are the
mm,
foundation on which I stand every time
mm,
I do that. Um, but here's the other thing that I love about your journey, Michael, is that you then, and I don't know if it's about going back, but you are the consummate teacher.
mm,
You are. Uh,
mm.
and so you became Professor
Uh-huh.
Michael McElroy. Can you talk to us about, and I think this is important for us as brothers in this industry, that this kind of journey, we have it's in us. You said it earlier. It's a thing that just as Black people that rests in our DNA, if
Mm,
we avail ourselves to it. Uh, and you did. Can you talk us about that transition? From that performer Michael, from
mm.
artistic director Michael to Professor Michael.
Well, my mom was a teacher for over 35 years at the
Uh-huh.
same school. So I was surrounded by teachers and also, sitting in choir rehearsals with my sister, who directed the youth choir,
Mhm.
watching how she taught, watching how my mom, who ran the adult choir, watching how my grandmother taught the senior choir, you know. So I grew up watching my uncle musical directing shows. I grew up around teachers. I had great choral teachers who taught in a very particular kind of way. Um, I knew that when I started my journey as an artist, that my end game would not be performing. I always knew that I didn't know what it was going to be. I just knew
Mhm.
that there would come a moment that I would know where the next thing would reveal itself. I
Mhm.
think what prolonged that was that I had that and BIV at the same time. So I was always composing and arranging and directing and teaching at the same time as I was performing.
Mhm.
Mm. And then I was on the Rent tour in, I'll never forget, in Appleton, Wisconsin, and I got the swine flu. And
Mhm.
that was probably the first week of November, and the tour was going to end in March.
Mhm.
And my voice never fully came back. So every day, 8 times a week, it was like I had to do a voice lesson just to get, I mean, on stage. It's like I couldn't just be free. I always had to figure out how to navigate. And the joy of performing was like, it was not there for me anymore. But like I said, I do my thing. And the
Mhm.
quiet voice that said, this is the time. And literally a few days later, I got a call from Kent Boyd Gash, who said, we're starting this new musical theater program at NYU. I think you'd be perfect for this position. I said, well, I'm out on the road. I'm back in 2 weeks. He said, well, come in 2 weeks. I came in 2 weeks. I did a mock class with some students. I met with the search committee. And then the next week I was meeting with the chair of the department. And then the next week I was meeting with the dean of faculty. And then the next week I was meeting with the dean of Tisch School of the Arts. And they were offering me a job. And I was like, oh, wait, oh, okay. Um, and one of the things that the chair said to me when I in my interview, she said, you're an artist that has created a way of working, but it's a shorthand. So you can go from A to J, J to S, S to Z. As a teacher, you must now fill in B, C, D, E, F, G
Mhm.
to teach it. And so then my work over the summer became, how am I building a curriculum? Because I was the head of vocal performance, which encompassed freshman vocal performance, freshman small group music, sophomore performance, sophomore small group music, junior performance, vocal performance, uh, senior vocal book prep, and then all of the music classes, piano, sight singing, theory, and the voice lessons. That was all under vocal performance.
Wow.
And I was teaching the freshmen, the sophomores, and the juniors. And so I was building it as I went along,
Yeah.
seeing what worked, what didn't work, um, and found that I really loved it. And it gave me the opportunity to continue working on my creative things and bringing those into the classroom, right?
Hmm.
So I found that I really loved teaching. I loved uh, challenging students to step into the fullness of their potential. I know I took this from my mother, that you can be tough as long as they know you really care about them.
Yep.
And I cared about my students, but I was tough.
Yep.
Um, and I'm proud of the fact that I was just working with some alums a couple weeks ago who were talking about what an impression their time with me, and it's reciprocal. In fact, I'm going to be getting together hopefully with some of my alums in June and doing some master classes, just so we can come back in the room and play and
Hmm.
together again. But I loved teaching. I loved the security that it brought me. I love the fact that I could leave and do a show for a short
Hmm.
period of time if I needed to and come back. I liked that I could write and bring things into class. So it was really the best of all worlds for me.
Hmm.
And then I just kind of, for 10 years, at the same time stepping into positions of leadership. So there were a couple of years where I was associate chair of the department. Then I was the director of diversity initiatives. And then I went on to another institution, and then I went to another institution, and now I'm back at NYU in a new position there as well. Uh,
Wow.
and so it's been, once again, it's just a journey. And sometimes you don't know what that journey is. My thing is, when opportunities come, usually the things that scare me are the things that I have to say yes to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this comes and I'm like, what? I don't know. I don't know how to do this. I don't know. Oh, well, you know what you're going to have to do now.
You
Now
got to
you
do
got
it.
to do it.
You got to do
So
it.
that has been my journey. But along that journey also has been, there have been lessons that every time I move to the next level, I'm able to advocate for myself in a different way based on the confidence that I've gained in who I am and what I can do in this space.
Yeah.
And also what I know I need in order to do my job to the best of my ability. Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because once again, coming from that, mentality of, theater where we can make $1 out of 15 cents and we can, say yes because you don't know who else going to take that job. And,
Hmm.
we come from a space of lack,
Scarcity. Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
there's a scarcity mentality. And in academia, either you want this or not. This is
Yeah.
what I bring. But it took me a while to build my confidence in what I bring into the room.
Wow.
And I'm still growing and learning and still being presented with challenges. Um, I've come back to NYU. I'm not teaching in theater. I'm teaching in art and public policy.
Wow.
Hey, well, okay, what am I doing here? Well, I'm in this next spring, I'm going to be teaching a course called Public Policy and African American Music, right? Which brings the thing that I love and that I've been researching into the space with the laws, the policies that were written, and the
Yeah.
folks who were creating art forms
Yeah. Yeah.
in response, So once again, this whole summer is going to be spent reading books on public policy, reading books on
Uh-huh.
this and that, so that I'm ready to teach come next year. So I look forward to this being the last institution academic move so that I can build on top of instead of digging up and making the whole structure
Well,
infrastructure.
you know what I love about this, Michael? So let's go back a little bit because the pandemic hit us
Mm-hmm.
and it hit us at a point where you were transitioning out of BIV,
Mm-hmm.
but there was yet Another thing that was happening,
Hmm.
there was a major reckoning happening
Hmm.
across this country, specifically in our industry.
Hmm.
Found yourself at the fore of another movement,
Mm.
which was the perfect springboard for what you're about to teach or what you are
Hmm.
teaching,
Hmm.
because then you became one of the founding members of Black Theater United.
Hmm.
Talk to me about that journey.
Well, I'm not going to say it was a smooth, not Black Theater United, but the journey was rough. I made some mistakes in there trying to figure out how to navigate um, what was happening in our country.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I could not shake was, when was our value determined that it could be this moment here that I'm seeing on the street? Uh, and so I was grappling with a lot of dark stuff, as we all were.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a call. Um, I don't remember who called me. It was either Audra, or I think it might have been Audra or LaChance, saying we're getting together some friends to just be in a Zoom room together. So at first, we were seeing that there was a lack of response from our industry. So the first question was around, why is nobody saying anything? Right? And that's when the lights started to kind of get bright
Mm-hmm.
on the challenges, the lack of specific things in our industry that had been in place, and the harmful things that had been in place for so long. Um, and in the course of our conversations to support each other, to grapple with what was happening in the world and specifically in our industry, we decided that we would come together and form to be agents for change by inviting people into the room uh, to build a stronger industry when we would open up again, right? And so there were many different organizations at that time that were doing many different ways, and we were very much, there are many different ways to the top of the mountain, y'all. So
Yep.
let's support each other in, you do it your way, you do it your way, we'll do it our way. And ours was always to support everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but also to invite those folks who were the power structures in our industry into the room to actually be in conversation about making some real changes so that the next generation wouldn't have to go through some of the things that many of us in the room went through,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I believe that real change cannot happen when it is forced on people.
Yeah.
They might make the change, but
Mm-hmm.
they'll present it
Mm-hmm.
as soon as they can, which is
They'll
what we do
dismantle.
right now.
Yep. They'll dismantle it.
They'll dismantle it and go right back. And it's only the things that are made in community, in allyship, where I'm not judging you for what you don't know, but I am going to hold you accountable for learning. Now, how
Mm-hmm.
can we work together to make something better? And if you go back to the civil rights era, we weren't singular in our work. We were
Yeah.
at the front lines,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it was many different people, allies together, working to make that change,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what we wanted to do. And so we came together first to create the New Deal, which was bringing all these different groups of people from our community who had never been in a room together. You never had a room with theater owners, producers, all the creatives from across all the fields of art, the designers, all of the unions
Mm-hmm.
in one room where we said, how are we moving forward? Here's the thing. How do we make this better? And some really wonderful things came out of that that I think are still happening today, that are still happening today in some spaces, in some places not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we said, okay, now we're doing that. Now what else are we going to do? We're going to look at some of the spaces within our community where there aren't any people who look like us, and let's partner to make sure there are programs so that there's a pipeline, a pathway into those
Yeah.
industries.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the marketing and internship,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let's go back into the schools and start to use theater as a way of helping students find their voice. So we're working with elementary school kids and junior high school kids, creating, work, art using the voices of their what their experiences are, their lived experiences are, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and then we say, well, where are the designers? So we're partnering with over 30 designers to create this expo where we're providing an opportunity to come into community with the designers who are actually doing the thing. We're up and coming and early career designers. So we have been seeing where there is slack and just partnering with people
Yeah.
to make sure there are programs so that we can continue to make sure that there are multiple lived experiences represented in those spaces and that there are pipelines into those spaces.
Mhm.
And it's a lot of work.
Of course. Yeah.
Is it?
You are the secretary. What's your
I'm
role?
the vice president.
Oh, wow. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm
Yeah.
vice president.
Yeah. Wow. So that
Yeah.
a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So from where you sit, Mr. Vice President,
Uh,
Professor, uh, looking back, what is your hope now for this generation
hmm.
in front of you?
Oh, I want them to know their history. There's a something that I get on Instagram, which tells you about a different contribution a different African American has made over time. Things that I didn't know about, like the refrigerator system for tr long travel, the microphone, the ice cream. I mean, just all these different things. I want us to know our history. When I was teaching at HBCU before I came back here, I was surprised at the messaging I was getting from students is that they felt as if they were a guest in the musical theater art form.
Mm,
And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. We're going to go back. And so we went back all the way to West Africa and looked at the traditions that came to this country with us and how those traditions led to, spirituals, led to country blues, classic blues, ragtime, all of these things. And that our music, the musics that we created, that we
yeah.
birthed to give voice to our lived experience, or evolved from people throwing things at us and saying, adapt this. And we say, well, we're going to put it through our DNA and come up with a whole new thing. All sit at the foundation of musical theater. And in them going and being able to see the people, the artists, the art makers, the composers, the lyricists, the book writers, the theater owners,
Mm,
they could see now and understand the contributions that Black folks have made to the beginnings and continue to the evolution of this art form. I want our folks, our young Black folks today to know that. They don't know their history. I'm still learning it because
mhm.
a lot of this stuff wasn't taught to me.
Yeah.
I want them to be curious enough to go and find some of this stuff out because when you know your history, you walk into the room a little differently.
Yeah.
You know who you are because you know the shoulders on which you stand.
Yeah.
But if it's just you out here with all this craziness coming at you, you can be thrown off your center very easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want them to know their history. I want them to not buy into certain standards that say that it's okay to be just okay. I want them to soar towards excellence,
Yeah.
right? I think though it was once again harmful in some ways to say you have to be 10 times better to just be considered half as good, that's based in harmful experiences that happened to our generations that came before us. But it made you
Elite.
work harder and you didn't take for granted when you were in the room. You knew, oh, I'm gonna have to really turn this out just to get in the room.
Yep.
But that
Yeah.
standard was set,
Mhm.
right? We can have that standard without it being connected to the harm.
Yeah.
But we got to do it. We got to know our history and we got to walk into every room knowing that there is a joy in understanding that you don't just represent yourself. Many people sacrifice so you can be here. So every time you walk into a room, you represent that legacy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Wow. Michael, it's been an hour.
Ah.
Uh, I am just I'm taken back to the first time I saw you.
Mm,
I'm taken back to the first time of being in a room with you,
mm,
and the esteem and the high regard that I hold towards you. you are the shoulders. Yours are the shoulders
Mm,
on which we stand, on which a generation stands.
mm,
Your wisdom is the gateway to possibility, uh,
mm,
not just for those of us who are standing next to you, uh, but those who are literally now coming out of the door. They'll see this interview, they'll hear our conversation, uh, and the possibilities become a bit more real, a lot more real, because of the contribution that you have made. Thank you. Thank
thank you.
you for not just uh, your ability as an artist, but for your heart
Mm,
and for your sense of duty as a Black artist. Thank you for not being weary or not giving up in your weariness,
uh-huh.
because that's easy to do.
Hmm.
But I've watched you push.
Mm,
And so, because part of what this Spotlight series is for us to give our our legends their
mm,
flowers while they can smell them,
mm,
to honor them while they can hear it. I want to do that for you
mm,
because you have no idea the lives you've touched,
mm,
no idea uh, the doorway, how wide you've kicked open that door for so
mm,
many. And so I want to say thank you. We want to love you and lift
mm,
you, celebrate you for all that you've done and for all that you are.
mm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm,
And to those of you who are watching, thank you for joining us. Yet another incredible time spent with another incredible human being that is Michael McElroy. If you enjoyed this interview and others, please follow us at blackbroadwaymen.org. You can follow us on all of our social media platforms at Black Broadway Men. Please do so. Share these interviews because they are indeed profound and useful for your journey ahead. I want to say thank you again to Professor,
oh,
Mr. Vice President,
wow.
uh, my friend and colleague, Michael McElroy. I love you so much.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you for this time.
Thank you.
Until next time, that's the Black Broadway Men Spotlight series. We'll see you again. Peace.